I was brought up as an Orthodox Jew. My father's name was Abraham. His brother's name was Isaac. His father's name was Jacob. How they named me Warren, I can't figure it out. But anyway, I was brought up as a Jew on the Lower East Side of New York City. I loved it. I was really a street person. My family celebrated feasts of Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, but they really weren't religious. I thought they were at the time, but they were really secular Jews. I married a Greek Orthodox woman, and she asked her brother when he met me, said, "What do you think about him?" And he said, "If he doesn't become a believer, you're in trouble." And he was right. I was straight with God. I loved God, but I was not straight with other people. I mean, I think I was a very critical person, had a critical nature. I was a well-educated person. Maybe I was arrogant because of that. Anyway, my brother-in-law came to live with us for 2 weeks, and as things went their way, he stayed for 2 years. So if you ever have a room, a guest room, I would suggest painting it polka dots and purple so you don't have a guest for 2 years. Anyway, he asked me a question because he knew I knew the Old Testament, and I loved the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he said to me, "What do you think of the New Testament?" And I gave him a derogatory comment, but it didn't put him off. He really was he's a good man. And he asked me, "What about it don't I like?" And I said, "I don't know, I never read it." Having given an opinion about something I knew nothing about, having considered myself an educated man, and having just made a fool of myself, I decided to read the New Testament. I expected an anti-Semitic book. I expected a book that wasn't written in the style of the Old Testament, my book, which I loved, and I read it. Of course, I picked up the book of Matthew because it's the first book of the New Testament, which happens to be a Jew, a tax collector, writing to other Jews to prove Jesus is the Messiah. Now, we Jews have been waiting for a Messiah, but it certainly wasn't this Jesus. I was told that Jesus was not the Messiah. He was the enemy. In fact, I was surprised to even learn that Jesus was Jewish and that all the New Testament writers were Jewish, except maybe Luke, which is debatable. And so I read the New Testament, I read the book of Matthew, and it was obviously a Jewish book. It obviously, Jesus had fulfilled the prophecies that I knew well, like a virgin will give birth, Isaiah 7:14. He was born in Bethlehem, and he fulfilled all these prophecies, and he was in the line of David. And I had to make a decision. I had to make the same decision everybody has to make in this entire world. Who is Jesus? Then when I read the book of Matthew, I decided that Jesus was who he said he was. He was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, people say to me, "Well, you converted." I never converted. Now, you may think this is circular reasoning, but what I decided was, if I love the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which I have always loved, and Jesus was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, in order to remain Jewish, I had to accept him as my Lord and Savior. Not to be converted away from Judaism. Judaism is a wonderful religion. I didn't need a new religion. I needed a relationship, which actually my relatives did not have. They celebrated Passover, and they celebrated Hanukkah, and they celebrated Yom Kippur, and they celebrated Rosh Hashanah. They had no clue who God was. I was very interested in God. I always had been interested. And as I said to you, I wanted to be a history teacher. And so when I started reading the Bible and I saw that it was history written from God's point of view, and that it was true and it was fulfilled prophecy, I knew that Jesus was God. I knew he was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I accepted him as my Lord and Savior. And it's quite amazing to me how God can take somebody like me, who actually teased people about following Jesus in the 60s with the Jesus movement and things like that. And when I was 29 years old, I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I love the Old Testament. I love the New Testament. In fact, I think they're one book. I don't think they're two separate books. And I absolutely love the Lord. And it's amazing that the Lord took an Orthodox Jew like me, turned me completely around, and made me a believer of Jesus as my Lord and Savior.